Good morning, traders. Chris Buss here with Traders Profit Compass with your morning look at markets for Monday, August 2nd. It is 6 a.m. as I'm starting the tape. As usual, please run this at 1.25x to maximize your efficiency. You won't lose a thing. And for those that are interested, I did a pretty comprehensive weekend video. You'll find that in the on the YouTube site under Weekend Profit Navigator. I went over a lot of the market internals, US dollar, interest rates, cyclicals, what to look for in that regime shift that may or may not occur, plus all the appropriate levels. I'm not going to go through all that again this morning, so maybe this one will be relatively brief. I've said that before and it never pans out, but let's see what we can do today. So I encourage you to go look at that video at your convenience if you missed it. Anyways, quick look at futures. We're off to a good start. Large caps, 0.6. Technology, NASDAQ up 0.5. Small caps up 0.8. Oil's down 1.2%, but nat gas is up 1.7%. Gold is relatively flat. Copper is up 0.7. On the macro front this week, pretty slow at the front half of the week. Then we've got on Wednesday, Vice Chair Richard Clarida is speaking on Wednesday morning. That will most likely be closely watched. And then we've got jobless claims on Thursday. And then Friday, we've got the July jobs number. So that'll be closely watched. On the earnings front, just taking a quick scan. You can find the calendar on the website. But anyhow, we got Baba on Tuesday. We've got Lyft and Uber this week. We've got Roku Wednesday after the bell. We've got on Thursday, we've got Square that just announced this morning that it paid $29 billion for this company called Afterpay. I believe it's an Australian company. It's one of these companies where buy now, pay later. If somebody wants to buy something, they can set up an installment plan through Afterpay where they pay every week or 2 weeks, supposedly interest-free. There's only a charge if you miss a payment. So Dorsey has pulled the trigger on that for $29 billion. Company does not make money. It's I just heard some initial commentary, the most expensive acquisition like per dollar of revenue like in all time. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. I did look at Square. It's trading down about $10 in the pre-market. So that may be if you're an active trader, to watch that one for either a continued move lower or a rebound once the market opens. And then on Friday, we've got DraftKings was a name that stood out on Friday. But let's take a look at the charts here real quickly. I've got today's pivot being 438 with futures being up pre-market. We're up in the 441 area. Now just keep in mind, as we always talk about, when futures are up in the morning, that'll leave a gap down below. Sometimes that proves to be just too darn irresistible to sell into. So then they, flash the gap lower, fill it, come back in to Friday's close around, 438, 438.50, and then rocket it back higher. But as far as today goes, I think as long as we're north of 438, we should be in good shape. Here's where you see on Friday, we just chopped around within a $1 range all day and really didn't make any progress. So now, if we're up here in the 141s, that'll leave looks like a $2.5 gap down to the Friday close. So just be aware of that. And then of course we've got the prior highs up here. I don't have that level exactly, but it's about 441.75, somewhere up in that range. Now looking at the QQQ 2-hour, didn't do much on Friday at all. We've got an overhead gap here between 365.25 and 366.50 that needs to be filled. We're trading above that now. So again, I think after they resolve the open, if we can get a break above 367, that opens the door for a run back up to 369. Excuse me. There was a ton of call buying on Friday looking for this Friday's 369 calls. So there was a lot of call buying up here in the 369 range on Friday. We'll see if that pans out. But I think a key level here today is going to be this 367. You can see last week we spent a lot of time right here at 367 and could not break through. So if one strategy might be, let this thrash around here in the open and then see if you can get a break above 367 that you can grab. Either that or try and get something on a gap fill back down into 364.5, something like that. And then that way that would give you an objective entry at a lower price, and then you just have to set your stop a little bit below. And here you can see a blow up, and what I've done is drop in a downtrend line off the prior highs into this area where it had trouble with 367. So we've got this gap above. I think just one scenario, come up and fill the gap, and then check that off the list, and then hit this downtrend line. It would be important for bulls to break through that and take out 367. Otherwise, if they roll it over here, that would look like 3 consecutive lower highs, and that wouldn't be so hot. That would be an indication of further weakness after this initial surge to fill this gap, and then they roll it over. So that's just one scenario. But if they can pop this downtrend line and then pop 367, I think they can make a run up here to 368.50, 369 on the upside. We talked over the weekend about IWM being a real frustrating trade towards the back half of the week. I thought this break here above 222.50 and above the 50 EMA, I thought they had it. I got long, and then they rolled it over, and then I got stopped out, came down here, filled this gap. And you'll recall just a minute ago I said we're up 0.8. So we're right back up into this area, but then with a gap below. So this morning, let's look at it on the 30-minute chart. So we're going to come back up in here to 222, 222.50, and then of course this gap will be reestablished. So if they were to fade the open and fill this gap again, and you got an entry down here at 220.50 or 221, that might be an interesting place to try a long, and then see if you could get this breakout here of 222 and then back up to these prior highs at 224. You may want to just take the alternate tack and say, you know what, too many head fakes, too much jacking around. I'm going to wait for price to break over the 50-day on the daily here at right in here at 223, and then get long for hopefully what would be a more sustained move. Of course, if you're an active trader and you feel comfortable and you're good at these little micro $1.50 moves, by all means, knock yourself out. Facebook, we had the gap down on earnings. On Friday, not a ton of weakness. What was it, down 0.5%? It is down here in this gap. This gap has not been filled. If you got to move down into 352, I would be a buyer there on that technical gap fill and see if get a bounce back up. Otherwise, this morning, if you recapture 358, I think it's a buy. And certainly if you recapture 362 and move into this $10, $11 gap, that would be a great place to be long. So depending on how aggressive you want to try and play that, those are the levels that I'd be looking at. 352 on further weakness, a recapture of 358, or a break into this big gap at 362. I think those are the key levels. As for Apple, it had a nice Friday. If you were on top of it, you had a chance to buy a test of these lows at 144, and it moved higher all day, and you got a good $2 move out of that without a lot of drama, which is always nice. It just marched higher, and that was against the soggy overall tape on Friday, so that showed some relative strength. Now today, I think 147 is your pivot, and if you can break above 147, I think you can get a run up here to the high 149s, even maybe 150. That would be your big breakout level here if it can take out these prior highs at 149.80 or right in that area. Get into the low 150s, and then I think it would be I hate to say gone, but that would be a major technical accomplishment. So that's what I see for Apple. And, on the downside, if it loses 144, then you're coming into 140, 150 on Apple. Tesla has had a nice couple of days, finding some strength after earnings. Got a nice move off of this support level, moved up, took out 665, took out the uptrend line at 670. That was the major level that we were watching, and then made a run up to 690, poked its head above, then came back below. So today, I think 690 is the key. If it can break above 690, it's got a path to 720, where there is a $15 to $18 gap. On the downside, you want to see it hold preferably this uptrend line, but if it came back into 670, I think you have to be a buyer there with a stop just below, and then see if it can reassert this trend here. But for the last 3 or 4 days, Tesla has looked really good. Microsoft was soggy on Friday. It just did a whole bunch of nothing. If you were super sharp, you had a chance to almost kind of buy this touch of the gap down here at 283.75, but it was really kind of a nothing day. I think for Microsoft to really get going, it's got to break above this 286.50. If you gotta move down to fill this gap into 281 or 280 on an overshoot, I'd be a buyer there. I'd like to think that the FATMAAN complex is going to, at the very least, remain resilient with the potential of a move to the upside. Over the weekend, I hypothesized, trying to think about what would the pain trade be. I think the pain trade might be FATMAAN continuing to rip after the post-earnings weakness. That's not a prediction. That's just an idea. We go level to level, and the proof will be in the pudding on the price action. But I think your downside is limited here. If you got to move back into 280, set your stop just below, and then see if it can gather itself. You had resistance here and all this support here, so that's a really important line, that 280. But if it came back in here to 283.50 at this gap, I'd be a buyer, and I'd be a buyer on a recapture of 286.50 that would open the door back up to 290 and possibly beyond. Amazon was the one with the big rug pull. We're down here toggling between 33.75 and 3,300. That is support. So this one may take a little time. If you want to be Joe Sharpshooter and play in this range, if you got a touch of 3,300, you could try to buy that and see if you got a $75 move back up to the gap. Otherwise, if you're more kind of laid back and you're looking for more of a position type of trade, just alarm 33.75 and then be a buyer there in that gap. And then hopefully you would get that gap fill all the way back up to 3,600, which is, what is that, $225. That would certainly be worth your while to be long against 33.75 with a stop below. See if you can get some action in here if the fat man decides to crank up again. Google has been quite resilient. Was the only one that really performed after earnings. Got the big gap up here. I have, as this has drifted back, I've reset this gap to between 26.80 and 26.40. You want to see that hold. If that can't hold there, you're going to get a gap fill back into 26.40. But if you were to lay the fibs on this move, what you've basically got here is almost a perfect 50% halfback. And so if the market stays constructive, I would think Google, you could be long against 26.80 and then look for a move back up towards the highs, given the strength of their earnings, given the positive price action. I think this is just normal profit taking, not a lot of energy, not a lot of really big red bars. You got little micro bars. That's just profit taking. I wouldn't characterize it as anything other than that. So fundamentally, you want to be looking for long entries on Google and not trying to get too cute, with any kind of big short or anything like this. Tactically, if you want to try and, capture that gap fill, that's perfectly fine. But I think in general, Google's going to be headed higher. And then Netflix was another one that had a negative earnings reaction, and now it's just kind of healing. As long as you're above 515, I think you're fine. You lose 515, though, you're going to come back and back test this low here at 508. I wanted to share a few charts with you. We've been watching this SMH semiconductor ETF. We talked over the weekend about all the heartbreak fake breakouts here above 258 that ultimately rolled over. Now we're emerging above 262, and I'll show you the 60-minute chart. Here we've broken above these prior highs here at 262, and so I'm gonna take that at face value and say, hey, it's breaking out. So I got long out into August, and as long as it can hold 262, it's constructive. If it rolls back into 260 or even 258, not so hot. That would make it look like yet another fake breakout. But like I said, I'm going to take it at face value. It broke out. It took out this level, and as long as it stays above, I'm gonna stick with that trade. And one of a contributing factor for the strength of SMH has been the breakout in AMD, and we caught this really well down here and participated in this move. Now the high on Friday was 106.84. If you missed all this, don't get too discouraged. I think it's going higher. And if price can take out this prior high, then I think you can be long against that level and look for a move higher. Could it come back and kind of build out a flag in here between 107 and 102? Sure, it could do that. That would be something to look for. So I wouldn't necessarily front run it because of that reason. This is resistance, and you can see that we've spent 5 hours right here below this level. So there is resistance there. That makes that line even more important. If you were to get a breakout, that will all become support. So that's an important level to watch if you're wanting to be involved in AMD. And what I've done here, this particular charting platform does not have a Fibonacci extension tool. So what I've done is I went to another charting program to get those levels. And here they are. These are the Fibonacci extension targets. And what I did was I started from the daily breakout level. And so here's your initial move. Here's the Fibonacci retracement. And then these are the extensions above. And you'll recall over the weekend we talked about the breakout on the weekly chart targets 115. So there's some good alignment between these intermediate targets and that 115 weekly target. You know, I would not expect a straight line. I mean, that would be great if we got it, because I'm long, and you know, that would be fantastic. But I wouldn't necessarily expect going from, 100 to 115 right out of the gate. But again, on the other hand, we had talked about Jesse Livermore's axiom that once you cross par 100, there's a lot of energy behind those moves, and we shouldn't be shocked if it did make a power move to 115, 120 in the weeks ahead. So I'm relatively excited about this one see the potential if this could break out here today or tomorrow and then make a move higher. I wanted to show you Ford. Now this may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I think the company has some good things going, and I really like the technical setup. Here you can see a nice rising channel with nice technical action within the channel. Channel low, channel high, channel low, channel high, channel low. So now we're back here at the low side of the channel. We've got price right above the 50 EMA, above all the moving averages, and with the bottom side of the channel as support. And we've also got support here at 1350. I like the idea of getting out in time and taking a long and forward and looking for a move back up to the top of the box if the market can stay constructive. And if you kind of pencil it in here, that would be up around 1850 or 19, and that would be a nice move for a $14 stock. That's 20-25%. So that would be an awesome move in forward if we just got this, if we repeat this technical action towards the top of the channel. So I don't have a position yet, but I'm thinking about that very seriously. And then lastly, let's wrap up with Walmart. We've got this level here at 143.50. I think if you get a breakout there, you can look for 147.50. And I was listening to some fundamental analysis over the weekend on Walmart about all the tremendous progress they've made in technology as they chase Amazon for the online business with the next day delivery. They've apparently made some tremendous strides in that area. And Walmart can get even a fraction of a re-rating to give them credit for their technology and their online presence, could be a good trade out into, well beyond, just looking for this $3 move here. So that might be something to just add to your watch list. I think it reports in a couple of weeks in mid-August sometime, so check that. But interesting little setup on Walmart. So quicker video today. Watch your levels. Let's see how the week plays out. And we're off to a strong start. Let's see if they can hold it today. And don't forget, don't get trapped by that opening gap below. Not telling you anything you don't already know, but there's always that FOMO urge when there's a gap open to, jump on board. Just play your levels, watch that initial gap fill, and I think you'll have a real good day of trading. For those of you that are new here, thanks for visiting the channel. I really appreciate it. If you found value in the analysis, hit the subscribe button and the alarm bell. You'll get my content. And then over in the show notes, if you want to do yourself a favor, you can register for all my content with your email. It takes 15 seconds. There's a link there in the show notes. Then you'll get all my content, morning, noon, and night, weekends, the whole deal, without having to hunt for it. And then longtime listeners, appreciate your support, and I appreciate you passing the link along to your trading group, to your social media outlets, and help me build the channel. I appreciate it. And just a note, I do need to leave the office here in the morning. More car issues. I gotta take it back to the shop for something, so I'll be out of the office from about 9:45 till probably 9:30 or 10:30, and then I'll be back in the saddle. So I will be away from my desk for a few minutes this morning. So otherwise, have a great day of trading. This has been Chris Buss with Traders Profit Compass. Talk to you next time.